Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Takeover Tuesdays. I am so excited to be here with you guys this morning. I'm your host, Jessica Springs. And as always, I have a phenomenal guest. But before I introduce that guest, I always like to take a moment for those of you that are new to our show, have never watched this before, take a moment to tell you a little bit about this platform and why we do this show. So, Takeover Tuesdays is a platform that promotes community and connecting small business owners with the community so that we can get their products and services out there and their story and learn more about who is behind the business, why they do what they do, and what got them to this place. So, all about connections and community and business owners and inspiring. Without further ado, let me bring on my special guest for today. Good morning, Summer.
Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
Fabulous. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I just finished a 2.5 mile walk with my doggo, so
Yes,
feeling good.
I love
Mhm,
it. And I just met your baby, big
mhm.
baby.
Oh yeah, yeah. She'll probably be behind us, back and forth because I brought turkey sausages upstairs in order to keep her in line until the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I need some turkey sausage. Keep me.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
welcome. This is Summer Nettles, and I am so pleased to have you on. This is our first encounter, which is lovely. I'm always excited to meet new people. So, Summer and I are new to each other, but this is going to be an interview where we really get to know each other and you all too. So, Summer, we're just going to dive right in. Tell us a bit about your story and you, who you are, your business.
Yeah. So I am the Chief Inspiration Officer for Greater Purpose Media, the founder and Chief Inspiration Officer. I mean, technically, I go by CEO, but like I really like CIO. If that were like a real thing that was accepted in the rest of America, I would totally just go hard in the paint. Um, but I am the only Black female owned videography business located in a historically underutilized business district in the state of Colorado. Um, Historically underutilized business districts are generally minority populations that are low income. And so I am going to stay in this district and build my business here so that I can hire young folks here and give them an opportunity to see what videography and production and writing are all about in terms of like internships and even like growing their positions if that's what they want to do with my company and even growing them out, you know? So yeah, so right now, I guess this is a good time to talk about my history.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So before I started Greater Purpose Media, I had been on the radio for 10 years as an on-air radio personality. I worked in Illinois and Indiana primarily, and then finished my radio career in Chicago at 103.5 Kiss FM. I was on there for 3 years. I hadn't finished my degree at that time. And I think that's really important if for like women of color to know, like women of color in their early 30s, women of color in their late 20s, women of color in our 40s, like um, I didn't finish my undergraduate degree until I was like 30, 32 maybe. Um, and I started my career at UW-Madison and found myself and my cohorts doing a lot of the heavy lifting around race and gender issues that the university really should have been doing, right? Like, but they charged us with that. And I left UW-Madison a semester early after encountering like just a lot of ridiculous BS. And also like losing a couple friends in car accidents and just really like terrible things. So I left, I began pursuing radio. I got my first radio gig right away. And then my second radio gig was a contest based position. So I did a contest for a morning show in Fort Wayne, Indiana. for a station that was historically Black that had been purchased by a white man. And they kept their rhythmic roots, but then like shifted from like the R&B station to like the top 40 rhythmic station. And when they did that, they really changed all the jocks. The Black jocks were gone, that had been there, and brought on like an array of folks, but primarily white on-air talent to lead the station. They held a contest and for the morning show, and I won. And then I was told I didn't win, or I didn't win. And I was sent back to like my station. They were like, well, we really, really liked you, and we're going to keep our eyes open for your next gig. Well, the woman that they gave the job to was a white woman. She might have been white and native, but she was like definitely white passing. And she was like a size 2, very typically like beautiful, wonderful person, right? But like very typically like what white men are looking for in like a hot chick for a morning show, right? And so then like 3 months later, maybe less, they called me back and said, come take over our middays. And I was like, oh, okay. Middays were going to be significantly less pay. And I didn't know that because it was my second radio station, right? I was going to end up working alongside a program director who did not know what he was doing. So 3 days in, I told him, like, you're late for your meetings. You don't know how to use your automated system, because in radio, there's like an automation system that happens. You don't appear to understand how promotions work. Like, these are all things that I'm really distressed about, because I've moved. I like got rid of my apartment in Illinois, moved to Indiana, to this, backwoods ass town, to be here. And like now I'm here, and it's just like, you don't know what you're doing. And this man told me, come back in 3 hours. You're really upset. It's going to be okay. Just come back and we'll handle it. Come back in 6 hours. So I come back in 6 hours, and he's got HR in the room, and they're like, we're going to let you go. Now, this is after like I've moved like from one state to another. They're like, we're going to let you go. Yeah. So we just don't think that you're a good fit. And I was like, what the hell? My mind, oh my God, Jessica, like my mind was blown. I literally looked around the room like it was a hidden camera show. I looked for the camera. I asked HR, like, is this a hidden camera show? Because like, I just put a security deposit down. Like, I don't even know what's going on here, and the woman in HR, who is a good friend now, was crying because she felt so bad. So I leave the station, and I'm very blessed to have a mother who is like a fire-breathing dragon and a grandmother who is a praying woman. And like, I get on the phone with my mom and my mom and dad, and I tell my mom I'm fired. And this is like back in the day when it's still a landline, right? So like, I'm like, Mom, I got fired. My mom's like, honey, Summer got fired, and then like my dad answers the phone. He's like, well, babe, you're gonna have to come on back, kid. You did the radio thing a good try, And I'm like, Dad, like, I'm not giving up. And my mom's like, what is the name of the man who owns that station? Like, and my mom's Black, right? But we're from Chicago. So yeah, it's real like, what is the name? Where is he at? Huh? And so my mom calls the owner of the radio station, and I think she just threatened him within an inch of his life. I think she was just like, do you like having money? Because I want your money now. Yeah, like I'm learning up. Like, my daughter's a hard worker. She noticed that your program director doesn't understand how radio works, doesn't seem committed to learning your internal systems, and I am not going to stand for it. Meanwhile, my grandmother, who is a prayer warrior, tells me it's time to prostrate myself to the Lord and lay on the ground and pray with her. And at 26, when you ain't got no job and no unemployment, you got to lay on the ground. So that's what I did. I lay on the ground and talked to my grandmother every day for 40 days. And on the 40th day, I get a phone call from the owner of the station saying he's going to release me. Well, before that, he released me from my non-compete, because the other station in town was interested in hiring me, but they couldn't because I had this non-compete. The station that fired me wasn't going to let me out of it because they didn't want me to take this fire over there. you know? And so like, the owner of the station flies in from Florida and releases me from my non-compete. And then on the 40th day of this, I shit you not, pardon my French, he calls me and he says, how would you like to have the office of the man who fired you?
Mm.
And I said, what? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to fire Ricky. Now, mind you, he didn't want to fire this man because he knew he was going to have to pay out his contract. The program director had written it in to his contract that if he was fired for any reason within the first 6 months or 30 days, that they'd have to pay out the year of his salary, right? But he had to fire. He fired him and then hired me and gave me his office. And I was in that job for 3 years. And we went from 10th to 3rd in the market. And it wasn't until then that I found out that I had won that morning show gig. So, you know, Black women will tell you that we're, of course, underpaid, right? So, like, the morning show gig person is getting paid more. They're getting more appearances. So, for folks who aren't in the media, like when you're in radio, you get paid for appearances. So, like, every time we show up at the car dealership or whatever, you get like a $500 like payout, you know, because your talent is what's bringing the people there. Which is why a lot of stations now have moved to like a format where they call the show like the morning riot or the morning mess, because they want to be able to switch out that talent and not lose the followers, not lose the relationship. So they've made it very generic, which is a very sick and kind of very very iHeartMedia kind of thing to do. Their channel. Anyway, so so yeah, we went from 10th to 3rd in that market while I was there. I had a great time. I was being severely underpaid. And I kept on seeing that in my time in radio. And I finally finished my bachelor's when I was in Chicago at Governor State University. So if there's anybody from Southern Illinois, they know GSU. Woo, Chi-Town. Yeah, and then I got hired on at Judge Mathis, which is a great crew and a great team. And so I got paid to help people argue with each other. And then I moved over to NBC News Chicago, and my degree is in videography, and they let me when I start doing a show called Just One Drink, and our show won an Emmy. So I became an Emmy-winning videographer like while I was finishing my degree, which was pretty dope. And that's support, right? Because that was a women of color led newsroom. We had a Latina assistant news director. I had a Black assignment desk editor who is managing assignment desk editor. I had a Black community affairs editor. We're just talking about a well-integrated, diverse workplace. And it really taught me like what it is to work in one of those, you know, and what I want to see in my own business, you know. So I left NBC Chicago to finish my master's at Northwestern, because everybody has their master's in that newsroom from Medill. And then I got offered a gig at 9 News in Denver. And right before I got hired, or right before I started, I got cancer, got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I beat it. And so now I've been cancer-free for 7 years as of February 14th. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But that the level of stress that I have been under, I think in those 2 years at 9 News and then finishing my graduate degree and covering news for like USA Today freelancing, I thought I was just, I'm newsed out. Like this pace of news, I can't do, but I am a journalist in my heart. So I did a few things for like local governments, produced a short documentary for the city and county of Denver, and then did social media for governments, and decided you don't have to be tethered to any agency. You have the kind of skill set that you can take on the road and make a living. You just need to believe in yourself. And so I decided to launch Greater Purpose Media. And the reason it's called Greater Purpose Media is because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. Like I said, my grandmother made me pray for 40 days on the floor.
And it worked. It worked.
It worked. And it worked, right? Yes, right? And so that's her favorite psalm is, I think it's John 1 and 4. And she said, when she's always told me, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And so when I launched my company, I was like, Nana, this is dedicated to you. We're going to be a media company that serves a greater purpose. And I want to put that right in the title, because I don't want to ever think that an incentive to do something that doesn't fit within God's plan for my life is okay to do. It's not. So let me let people who are potential clients know. Let me let people who are gonna like sponsor our work. So we produce documentary films and podcasts. I'm just now kicking off. Let me let those people know that, like, in the door, if you're a nefarious character and you're not going to be working for the greater good, then you can just like kick rocks. I don't care. You know.
Mm. No, that's a beautiful testimony in itself. So, and the name is always so important. So, thank you for sharing with us how you got to that name. And God, I mean, your journey has definitely prepared you for what you're doing right now, for sure.
Thank you. Right. I think so. I
Tell
think
us
so.
through those experiences, how does that I know you've talked a little bit about it. How does that translate right now with what you're doing?
So um, I kept seeing over and over and over again in my experiences, Black women specifically, like, so I'm Black and Puerto Rican. And um, let me just really quick, like, highlight this, right? Like, there is a dichotomy of issues that between Black and Brown folks that we have yet to address. And
Mhm.
as we move through this racial justice space, I think Black Latinas, Afro Latinas are uniquely positioned to talk about this, right? Like how come there wasn't, like, because Mexicanos had civil rights in 1954. Black people didn't get them until 1964. So over in that first issuance of those rights, where were we as as a collective, right? Where was our unification then? And as we move forward into this next era of demanding what we deserve, we have to keep that in mind, that there was a time when white adjacency meant so much to us that we were willing to leave some of us really behind, right? And that's not okay. And so, like, in building coalition and power brokering with the structure that exists, like, I think acknowledging that is key so that we don't let that happen again. Okay.
I am
Um,
completely with you. Thank you for bringing that up too.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, like, what I would see though in like these work environments is like Black women, like, over and over and over again. Either I was the only Black woman hired or the only Puerto Rican, definitely the only Puerto Rican in Colorado, probably like one of two Black people if there are, in Colorado. Um, and I would consistently see like obfuscating pay grades, like not wanting to hire. It wasn't until I got hired as the program director in Fort Wayne that they brought on the historically Black radio station allowed me to hire one of the most talented DJs they will ever have, who was a dark complected Black man, right? Like, um, and they would not, and that station had been up for years and they would refuse to hire him. So it wasn't until I was like, no, we're bringing him on. Like, he's rocking it at the club every weekend. This is a one horse town. What are you thinking? Like, you know, um, that happened. And so I think what I learned through my working experience is that, we are getting marginalized. We are getting paid less. We are getting pushed out of the work environment, right? Um, it wasn't until I launched my own business and started talking openly and candidly about the experiences I had had with other Black women that I started hearing that from them too. I started hearing that from them. I started hearing that from us, like, and I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, I didn't know this happened to you, right? But there's an inherent shame in being fired or quitting, right? That we carry with us because we're taught that we have to do it. that we have to do it better than everyone else, right? Like when you're a Black or brown woman, you're taught from the jump that you have to do it better. And so to be fired or to quit means that you obviously were below par. That's not usually the case. Usually what it is that you're above par. You're shining too brightly. I tell people all the time now, don't don't be hurt by the fact that they don't see you. It's just hard looking at the sun.
Mm. I mean, you're testifying today. I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Just drop the mic on that right there. Got nothing else to say. Interview.
Mhm. Yeah, they see you, they see your work ethic, they see how valuable you are. They do. And it's pet to threat. Like my friend Simone quotes from another wonderful author. I can't think of her name. But yeah, it's pet to threat. And it's also a shame spiral, right? So like you come in as a Black or brown woman and you're like, I'm gonna murder this job. I'm gonna do the best job ever, right? And you're wonderful as long as you're like not asking for change, not pointing out where the shortcomings are, not the one, not the squeaky wheel that says, hey, this area needs grease, right? As soon as you start doing that, and you're going to do that inherently, because when you're trained to be the best, you seek better. Like you're always seeking better. We don't rest on our laurels, right? So like um what ends up happening then is like you bring up issues that exist, and they rebuke you for those, right? And like they pretend that they don't exist, and then you say, well, wow, like if I were a white male and I said this, I think it would be received differently. And that, pointing that out, creates a system of shame. And white people are like the witch and like and like the Wiz or the Wizard of Oz. They're like, oh, I'm melting, like they can't take that. Like, and so what they do is they seek to reassign the shame. And the best way to do that is to then start finding fault with you, right? Because it's incredibly shameful to be told that what you're doing is racist or oppressive, right? And so instead of accepting the need to change, they reassign that shame to you and start finding reasons why you're not a credible resource. Then they ask the only person of color, and this is where we get dangerous to each other, right? They ask the only other person of color, right? If that person is brown, or if that person is Black and you're brown, right? Or if that person is a Black male and you're a white female who brought this to their attention, right? Whatever dueling oppression, you can counter with, they will ask that other person to validate what they've done wrong. You can never validate these people. You have to tell them, I am not sure if I am the best arbiter or reviewer of the conduct you exhibited to her, because you treat me like this and you treat her like that. And so I think you need to go back to her or him and have that conversation, because I can't validate you, but I appreciate you. I don't necessarily need you to stand in solidarity with me, but what I do need you to recognize is just because we're both Black doesn't mean that you're getting treated the same way I am, right? And as someone who has light privilege, I have to know that I mean, I've gone toe to toe for people who are darker complected, for people who, like, I don't even know, like what, like are disabled, for people who may have a weight difference, like your weight, you're carrying weight, because we know there's sizism in the workplace, right? Like, who carry weight different than I do. Like I'm a Black Puerto Rican, I'm stacked in the back, right? Like I'm a look good. I mean, but like if you're a plus sized woman, like there are a lot of assumptions assigned to you, right? Like, and I've fought all of those, and so in order to stop the idea that like I can ask one of you and that will be the voice for all of you, we have to really say like, no, I'm not going to validate this question with an answer. And honestly, it's kind of gross that you would ask me that, because what you're looking for is to not be accountable, and I'm not the one for that.
I'm with you, and I have to interject. We got some ladies joining us. Good morning, Manushka. Good morning, Najla. Good morning, Ashley. Good morning, Annalise. Oh, and Shara, she's She's cracking up, stacked in the back. She says we all have different experiences, which is so true. And
Mhm.
Najla's saying,
Mhm.
and stacked in the back.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
as you're, gosh, I mean, as you're going through all these experiences, how does this play out with the films and the media that you do?
I decided that it was time. So I launched Greater Purpose Media and the pandemic hit. And so I was like, holy moly, like getting government contracts to do videography for like agencies. Because one of the reasons why I really wanted to do videography, photography, and social media was I would go to Puerto Rico. And when I'm in Puerto Rico, like the primary way that Puerto Ricans receive news isn't the television. It's like it's their phones. It's our phones like on the island. And so like I just saw like FEMA and all these government agencies doing such a bad job letting local business owners know what the process was to get like their businesses up and running after the hurricanes. And I was like, what the hell? Like it's 3 years after Maria, like because this is when I was there. And this is a terrible system. I was like, I'm going to start doing this for government agencies because they don't understand like how we're working, you know? And they're doing a bad job disseminating information. Um, I was in talks to do the first scope of work for my business when the pandemic hit. And I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I was like, you know what? It's time to tell the story of Black women in the workplace. And I was like, let me, I prayed about it. And the title for the series that I'm doing for PBS right now, She Quit, came to me. And She Quit is a 6 episode documentary series about the exodus of Black women from the traditional workplace. Some people interpret that as corporate. That's not corporate, it's all white run workplaces, right? Like the traditional workplace is a workplace that has a white male CEO, maybe a white female second at the helm or at the top of human resources, or even a Black female, right? Because like that's the way they use us against each other in those spaces. And I decided that it was time to discuss. It's time to take that burden off our shoulders. So that example I used, where like the white manager or the white coworker probably cries first, and then goes around to the other people of color and says, "Won't you please validate me?" Right? Like, it's time to take that off the shoulders of women of color and people of color. And so I was like, let me produce the 6 episode series. And it worked out to 6 episodes because there was no way I was going to do that in an hour and a half or 2 hours. There's just too much history and too much reality for us to do that. So I needed to take that off of our shoulders and address the fact that we bring value to the workplace. So the first episode is about like what actually do Black women, specifically Black women, bring to the workforce that enhances the workplace, right? Because we know there's a term called interest convergence, and that means that you won't move the ball forward if your interests and my interests don't converge, if they don't meet. So we know traditionally that white America will not move for us unless we offer something that is tantalizing for them. So let me show you that like we are the ones uniquely capable of communicating with your CEO and your janitor, and that makes your whole organization more efficient, right? Like when you pay Black women equal pay, organizations that do that pay everyone equal pay. Organizations that don't pay Black women equally, Black women specifically, do not pay anyone equally and usually outpay their white male workers, right? So, and that is stats. That's not like a made up fact. So, the first episode talks about the value we bring. The second episode digs into our mental health and how it's compromised in the workplace. The third is our physical health, because we know that like if you're mentally stressed, you can't give your physical your best, right? Then we go into our financial health, and the fifth episode is our relationship and familial health, because Black women are also the highest divorce rate in the country. We get divorced at a rate higher than we get married. Um, and so how do we navigate relationships? How does this negative work environment impact our relationships with our children, with our husbands? We're also the only ethnicity that's still most likely to have two jobs in the last 10 years. So while other women of color are shifting to one job and able to maintain themselves, Black women still have two and three jobs, right? So like, how can I say, son, you matter when like I'm just trying to keep food on the table and so I'm working two jobs, right? And then the last episode is solutions for workplaces to implement that can help us stay and grow in the work environment. Because when you talk about Black women and wealth, what you're also talking about is our retirement. And if our average lifespan in a working environment is 2 to 3 years, you can't get vested in the retirement fund, right?
Mhm.
You can't, so not only are you getting burned in the present, you're going to get burned in the future when like not your white male counterparts and your white female counterparts earned a lot more in their working life because you were underpaid. And now they have more savings, right? And they're still the majority in that retirement community. So the retirement community is priced for them, not for us,
Mm.
right? That's really, really dangerous. And in the time of COVID, we know that Black female businesses have failed, unfortunately. And that's not a failure for those businesses that did close. That's not your failure, right? That's we because venture capitalists don't invest in us. So what we have to do then is like really prepare our workforce to receive these fucking, oh, pardon my French, oh, F-bomb, titans. I mean, we're talking about women who, like, for the last 3 or 4 years have been beast mode, right? Like, doing six jobs in their workplace, right? Trying to hold up their business. And so you can't expect those women to be demure flowers and tolerate inconsistencies and low performers in the workplace that you are forcing us to go back into because we're not that one, you know. So we have to prepare the workplace to receive us as well. So yeah, I want to do that for Black women and for all women by default, you know. Really quickly on the back end, because I like to see things through. I've teamed up with a nonprofit organization
Mhm.
um, that is going to help me in the corporate workspace by administering a survey of C-suite level and mid-level management prior to watching the documentary series, and another survey after they watch the documentary series to see how we've moved the needle on the perception of what it is like for Black women in the workplace and their impacts. And then we're going to help them with a 6-month strategy to make the change. And I'm
Wow.
hoping to document that. So,
Wow. All I can say is wow, 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 wow. And I love how I mean, what strikes me is I love that you get into the real nitty gritty, the layers of all of this. That's what I love is that you're kind of it's like a sequential sequence of what it looks like to be a Black woman in the workplace and how we get to that place where we all are treated equitably and just things are running how they should.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
gotta do
So
it.
you may have mentioned this, but I missed. When is this going to be complete and launched to the public so we can all see this?
Right. So my production schedule is completion and premiere by October,
Hmm.
but I need to raise the capital. So I'm trying to crowdfund $49,000, and then I've been taking meetings with corporate donors and investors. So, like, if people can't open their wallet, opening up your contact list is always helpful. And putting me in touch with folks who can be like 1,000 to 5,000, 25 to 35, and 100,000 and over. Like, getting in front of those people is so, so important to get this funded. I'm working to raise $550,000 by the end of March, early April, so I can go into full production. And the crew I'm hiring is all women of color, um, all women of color, from the promotions team to the videographers to the interns, all women of color. That like women of color of all shades and um, and ethnicities, because I need these women to have a job that paid them correctly on their history, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
they're excellent, and for whatever reason, identifying as a woman um, seems to enable people to ask you to just like work for free or work for less, and like I need them to be able to say like I just worked on a project where I got paid $95 an hour.
I-
So Satan, like no,
you're
no,
speaking my language right now. Speaking my
yeah,
language. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So
Very
yeah,
nice.
so those
This
situations.
this platform is all about supporting. So when we finish this interview, I want us to put in the comments where folks can help you donate. So where they can get that information. Yeah, crowdfunding. So we'll definitely go back, and me and Summer will put all of this in the comment section so that everybody can refer. And please, please, please support. Like Summer said, if you can't, open up your wallet, open up your contacts. Somebody out there can help, and a whole bunch of somebodies makes it all possible, right?
Mm,
Power in numbers. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So I know, gosh, we covered so much, Summer. I want to keep going. I'll have to have you back for sure, especially as this project progresses, and to continue the support and get the word out there for whatever you need with it. In the meantime, is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to say as like final last words?
Thank you, everybody, thank you, Jessica, for having me. First of all, thank
Absolutely.
you, Annalise, for referring me to Jessica because like dope women should be
Yes.
around dope women, like
Yes.
so
Thank
amazing.
you, Annalise.
Mhm. And also, if folks want to reach out, I think one of the things I'm going to start doing I know actually, is collecting stories to promote the project. So my email address, and like I'm sure it's going to get flooded, but this is the part of the process, is like finding the stories, finding the most compelling stories to incorporate and weave in to the project. So my email address is summer@greaterpurposemedia.com. Again, that's summer, just like the season,
Mhm.
at greaterpurposemedia.com. If you have a story that you want to share, I'd love to hear it.
Perfect. And we will put this, like I said, I'll get all this in the comment section so that when viewers come back, if you're not with us live right now, they're going to see that and then they can email you for sure. And now that I know all about it, honey, I'm going to be in your email box because so just count me in already.
Yeah.
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 And Manushka says we need to talk. She's all excited. She cannot wait to. Yeah. So we've got some women in your pipeline. Lots of them. All right.
Thank you.
Well, gosh, Summer, I loved having you. You are such a breath of fresh air, and I love that you keep it real and honest and raw, and that's what stands out to me about you, and I love it, love it, love it, love it. So, thank you for sharing your story today. Yes, and we look forward to this series, and we are going to do everything, or I'm going to do everything I can do to continue to support this. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Awesome.
For those of you out there watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for participating. Thanks for all your comments. If I missed any comments, I'm so sorry. We'll go back and definitely chime in after the fact. For those of you out there, I hope all is well. You are well. If you are not, I am sending you good energy and vibes. Feel happy. We have so much wonderfulness going on, but we also have a lot of challenges and tough things happening right now. So I'm just keeping everybody in my thoughts and prayers, and stay well and stay inspired out there. Until next time, this is Takeover Tuesdays.